Hello, I'm the FanFic Critic. I read it, you listen. With all the buzz with Harry Potter going around lately, I decided to take a look at another Harry Potter fan fiction. Yeah, it doesn't take place during the 7th installment, unfortunately. Well, I don't think it does. I don't know, it might be around the 5th book. It's a little hard to tell. I mean, let's start with the title of this fanfic. The fanfic is called The World-Saving Properties of a Hot Threesome Sex. And why the heck is world-saving one word? It should be 2 words. Yep, I just love those grammatical errors inside the title. The author is Upalish. Wow, they've written 126 stories. Wow. It's rated T, it's in English, it's humor parody, it's Harry P, and it has 156 reviews. Yeah. Let's get started. Disclaimer, I own nothing. This is so very cracked out, even for me. I'm posting it now because I'm sleep deprived and my judgment is shot to hell, but it's entirely possible that after I've had a good nap, I'll realize what I've done, panic, and delete this forever and ever, amen. Well, apparently you didn't delete it because this was published back in 2008 and it's 2011 right now. Harry Potter and the World-Saving Properties of Hot Threesome Sex. Okay, this story is rated T, so let's hope it doesn't get too graphic, or then the rating will be wrong. The whole mess started after the Cho incident. Okay, why the heck is the I in incident capitalized? Under the mistletoe. Okay, so their kiss hadn't exactly been chock full of rockets and shooting stars and pepper-up potions and cheering charms. In fact, it hadn't been much more than, well, kind of soggy. As far as Harry was concerned, that just meant he really shouldn't go around snogging people who couldn't control their tear ducts, or, he recalled with a shudder, their tongues. But no one else really seemed to see it that way, which he discovered after 3 or 4 days of Colin stalking him even more relentlessly than usual. Why won't he leave me alone? Harry demanded. His voice cracked embarrassingly under the last word, because the universe and his own bloody hormones hated him that much. Oh, Harry. I guess I'll do a British accent for this, seeing they're British. Hermione sighed, which, as Harry well knew, meant that she thought he was being endearingly thick and adorably emotionally stunted. Ron scowled because whenever he acted all clueless and dazed and emotionally stunted, Hermione shrieked a lot and then hexed him. He has a crush. On who? Harry asked blankly, and Hermione rolled her eyes. On you, of course. It's pretty hard to miss, mate. Ron agreed. Harry stared. Course, he's obviously not your type. Ron went on a bit scornfully. Well, no. Harry agreed slowly. What with him being a him and, you know, a him? Ron blinked. Right, he said, not sounding particularly convinced. Hermione just sighed again. Harry got a little paranoid after that. He started watching people, and he couldn't help but notice how girls kept giving him all these soulful, disappointed looks. At the same time, they'd been giving Blaise Zabini since he officially came out a year before. On the other hand, Harry was sort of surprised and gratified that he ranked up there with Zabini on the goddammit, I would have totally hit that scale. Because he had to admit that the Slytherin was pretty good looking. But on the other hand, what the hell? I like girls, you know, he told Ginny Weasley disconsolately one afternoon, after he caught Blaise giving him the eye. Okay, why is the T and the E capitalized in those two words? From across the Great Hall. I mean, if you're supposed to be emphasizing it, it should just say in quotations, quote unquote, the eye. You know, that look you give someone when you like them and you want to shag them. Okay, that was too much information. Let's get back to the review. He leaned in quite close to her, but Michael Corner just smiled at them indulgently, not a hint of jealousy in his eyes. Harry decided that he hated everyone. Would it have killed Corner to just look a little threatened? Of course you do, Ginny agreed, in a let's humor the poor terminally closeted boy. I expect you're just confused. I'm not confused, Harry cried. No, I can see that, Ginny said soothingly. She rolled her eyes at her boyfriend, who smirked. Harry was really starting to loathe this whole saucy redhead spitfire thing Ginny had going on. Zabini blew him a kiss. Harry manfully fought back a flood of extremely heterosexual tears. I'm not gay, Harry sullenly told Zabini in potions. Snape, in an entirely too characteristic act of casual malice, had partnered them up for the entire week. So you won't bolt him then, Zabini translated resigningly. Well, I suppose I'm still up for it anyway. He paused, then grinned. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Harry gave up and slumped forward, letting his head hit the table with a loud thunk. 10 points from Gryffindor for disturbing the class. Oh, maybe I should do that more. How does Snape sound? Okay, let's try this. 10 points from Gryffindor for disturbing the class. I guess that was okay. Snape immediately said with an unpleasant smile, I hate the entire world. Harry sighed. Zabini pouted. I'm really not gay, you know, Harry told Hermione and Ron a little desperately. Draco Malfoy had been leering at him all day, and that was just not on. Hermione shook her head sadly. This constant self-denial is only hurting you, Harry, she told him in an informative 12 steps to be a healthier you sort of way. We all love you just the way you are, you know, though I expect we would do without some of the shouting. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with being attracted to other boys. Unless it's Crabbe and Goyle, Ron interjected helpfully, or Snape. Unless it's Crabbe or Goyle or Snape, Hermione agreed, ever the unquestionably supportive best friend. Or that wanker Anthony Goldstein. Harry, puzzled by Hermione's sudden aversion to a perfectly decent and rather nondescript Ravenclaw, glanced at Ron curiously. Ron shrugged, don't you mean Ron shrugged and mouthed outscored her on a test, which of course explained everything. But really, Harry, Hermione continued, though a faint Goldstein-inspired frown lingered on. It should have been obvious to us all right from the very start. Ron told me you used to have dreams during first year, begging someone to let you out of the closet. Cupboard, Ron corrected around a mouthful of chocolate frog. And it hardly takes a divination's expert to interpret that, Hermione finished, infuriatingly smugly. Harry fixed them both a long, poisonous glare. Hermione, he said, as patiently as he possibly could, I have had nightmares about being locked in a cupboard because that's where my relatives kept me for 10 full years of my life. His best friend stared at him mutely. Oh, Ron said. Right, bastards. Well, Hermione said, eyeing him with disconcertingly clinical interest. No wonder you're always shouting. But still, she added, recovering magnificently, that doesn't mean you aren't bent as a Malfoy. The corridor was blissfully empty, but Harry and his shadow and his reflection in the window. Just Harry and his shadow and his reflection in the window. It was the perfect place for a misunderstood and burdened student to go to be angsty for a while. I'm not gay, he told his glassy, translucent reflection. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, obviously. He'd actually thought about trying to be gay for a while, just because Vernon feared and hated homosexuality nearly as much as he feared and hated magic. And if there was one thing Harry enjoyed about living with his relatives, it was tormenting them. But I really do like girls. I believe you, an ethereal voice intoned in the dark corner. Harry jumped, pulse racing as he turned to see Luna Lovegood staring at him, her gaze wide and hazy. Hi, he said weakly. There, she said absently. Have I given you a scare? You should go find Blaze. I'm sure he'll comfort you. I've been heard that sex works quite well as a relaxation technique. She blinked at him a few times, her eyes very blue and dim in the light. Harry wondered if she was trying to communicate by Morse code or something. I thought you believed me, he said, rather put out. Oh, I do, Luna agreed, which is why I'm more than willing to join in. Harry blinked back at her and hoped he wasn't saying anything like, oh yes, that sounds like sexy good fun in Morse. Oh, I'll just be somewhere else, he croaked. Even Snape would have been impressed by the sheer amount of discipline it took to stop the mental images from forming. Somewhere very else. Madame Puddifoot was hell. No, Madame Puddifoot's was hell. Pure and simple. Cho was clingy and insecure and, well, soggy. The little cupids kept leering at him. Apparently, even they thought he was bent, and he could still see Hermione's disapproving frown in his mind's eye. You really shouldn't lean on her like that, Harry. It's not fair to either of you. Plus, ever since the word of the date spread around Hogwarts, Zabini had been wearing this shattered wannabong sort of look on his face. Girls from every house kept glaring at Harry and whispering to each other about his cruel, heartbreaking ways. Parkinson sniffed disdainfully whenever she saw him and muttered things like, I bet you kick puppies too, Potter, and I hope you choke on all the candy you probably steal from babies. Then there was Snape, who delighted in taking a massive number of points from Gryffindor in revenge for Harry crushing all of Zabini's hopes and dreams, or whatever. Which was just no. Harry knew the wizarding world was, well, not exactly logical or reasonable, but he was almost positive professors were not allowed to take points because he wouldn't have sweaty gay sex with another student. He even considered going to McGonagall about it, but every time he tried to imagine the ensuing conversation, his brain literally shut down. And now Cho was crying again, and screeching about his ardent love for Hermione or something, and then his ardent love for Zabini, and there was something in there about all those mysterious detentions with Snape, you little man-slut, which he refused to hear because, well, he was too young to die just yet. You know, he told Neville that night after he was back in the Gryffindor Tower and safely hidden from Skeeter's leading questions, focused on the Gemicide woman, Hermione's disappointed gaze, Cho's tear ducts, and Snape's Snapeness. I kind of wish I were gay. That's nice, Harry, Neville said, carefully edged away. Gryffindors, Harry reminded himself, were brave and reckless and decisive. I think you need commas in there. We're brave, comma, reckless, comma, and decisive. That would make more sense. It was about time he acted like a proper Gryffindor, not to mention a proper teenage boy. He set out to find Luna, but she was nowhere to be seen, and everyone looked at him oddly when he asked if they knew where she might be hiding. You want to talk to Looney, was the general response, though those cries were interspersed with the occasional, you want to find a girl. Eventually, he figured that, as the girl in question was Luna Lovegood, the best way to find her would be to let her find him. She generally popped up whenever he was alone somewhere, being all angst-ridden and horribly misunderstood after all. So, feeling rather cunning, he found an abandoned corridor and lounged against the wall for a while, trying to look emo. You rang? Luna said, suddenly appearing from behind a rusted suit of armor. Sure. Harry agreed, trying not to be too weirded out. This probably wouldn't work out very well if he was too weirded out. I just, wanted to ask if, Well, if you're still up you know. Luna tilted her head to the side, interrupting his babbling with a conspitural, "Shh, I must consult the gibberwobs that float ever so lightly on the spliting breeze, whatever that is." Harry wondered if it was too late to run away screaming. Then Luna smiled, and he had to admit it was quite a nice smile. "The gibberwobs say that today is an excellent day for forging new connections and for hot threesome action," she told him, and the hall suddenly seemed considerably warmer. "Right," he said, his voice gone all wobbly and high-pitched. "Good. So do you think, that Zabini—" "Difficult to say. But come, follow me, young Gryffindor lion," she said imperiously. "For I have formulated a plan most intricate and clever, guaranteed to win over any boy in a heartbeat." "Well," Harry said dubiously, "you're the Ravenclaw, I suppose?" She considered this carefully. "Yes," she eventually agreed. "I am." Luna's complex and cunning plan apparently involved snagging Zabini on his way to class and saying loudly enough to be heard by everyone in the immediate area, You, me, Harry, abandoned classroom 1 hour from now, lots of bodily fluids to be exchanged. What do you say? RSVP. Harry choked. Zabini gaped for a moment, then grinned, slow and, well, kind of sexy. The crowded hallway went very, very quiet. "Go, Potter," someone said. Odd. "Can we watch?" someone else begged. "Only if you pay for it." Harry heard himself reply, and just like that, Blaze's gaze went from cautiously interested to hopelessly lustful. It figured, Harry thought dazedly, that a Slytherin would get off on shamelessness and extortion, not to mention shameless extortion. Screw, 1 hour from now," Zabini said in a low voice that had a few of the other boys and most of the girls in the vicinity looking about ready to start screaming his name and throwing their underwear. "We're going now." Harry said, suddenly uncertain, but then Luna and Blaze were frog marching him away. And, well, at least they weren't getting snot and tears all over him or screeching accusations about his passionate super secret affair with Snape. Hot inter-house threesomes, Harry discovered, were not only an excellent way to bridge the Slytherin-Gryffindor divide in times of war, in parentheses, uniting from within, Blaze snickered. Get it? From within, wink wink, nudge nudge, but also provided to be quite useful when it came to clearing one's mind. Who knew the key to occlumency was constant athletic sex? And, okay, so Harry didn't exactly want his mind to be cleared, but mysterious hallways of doom or not, he wasn't about to give up sexy bedroom hijinks just for the sake of a few bizarre dreams. Thank Merlin Zabini managed to get you in hand. This is Snape, so I have to... Thank Merlin Zabini managed to get you in hand. No wonder you were useless before, Snape said, shaking his head. Harry leaned backwards. Lest he be hit by flying hair grease, the spittle of rage was bad enough. All those suppressed hormonal urges. I don't think this is entirely appropriate, Harry said rather faintly, because a world where Snape could talk about Blaze having him in hand was not a world he particularly wanted to save. Just keep it up, Potter, Snape commanded irritably, which was almost enough to ensure that Harry was physically incapable of getting or keeping it up ever again. Our very lives, the future of the wizarding world, may depend on it. I am almost positive this isn't appropriate, Harry said. He glanced down at himself and added woefully, no pressure, little guy. Snape made an odd sound in the back of his throat, and Harry froze. He darted a quick glance at his professor who, he was positive, would have no problem spreading embarrassing rumors about him even if he was boffing a Slytherin. I mean, not so, little guy. Snape bared his teeth and rolled his eyes so violently that it looked a bit rabid. This was, Harry realized with dawning horror, Snape's amused face. Legolamens. Sorry if my Snape voice sucks. I mean, his voice is very deep and I can only do so much with my voice. I knew you liked boys, Hermione said victoriously. She did her patent ah-ha-ha. I totally called this from a mile away, for I am as wise as clever and know-all boogie, which largely involved her hopping in place, punching the air, and getting her hair in everyone's faces. Luna, Harry reminded her serenely once he spat out a clump of frizzy brown strands. Some of Hermione's entirely intellectual, not at all prudent triumph faded away. Bit weird, that Lovegood girl, Ron said, which, as far as Harry could tell, was his only real opinion about his best mate's unusual relationship. There was a reason the redhead was probably Harry's favorite person ever. Ron was a kind of special of simple in a complicated world. True, Harry agreed happily. The thing about Luna was that she had all sorts of crazy ideas about all sorts of odd objects set pretty much all the time, and it could be alarming, yeah, but sometimes she really struck gold. Most often whilst naked. Harry liked naked ideas. Yes, but you and Blaise, Hermione preserved, because she generally preferred to pretend that Luna didn't exist. But that was okay, because Luna insisted that Hermione was actually just a manifestation of Harry's subconscious desire to excel in his classes. Blaise pointed out that he saw Hermione too, or at least her hair, which tended to obscure the rest of her and whoever was standing near her at the time. Luna had shrugged and replied that Harry's subconscious was a mighty subconscious and that the Ministry feared it greatly, which is why they have enrolled a fake Hermione in subconscious Hermione's stead, so no one would ever suspect the strength of Harry's manly mind powers. There might have been something about Nargles in there too. Harry and Blaise had stared at her for a while in companionable confusion, and then there was sex. It's funny, Ron said, with a wicked gleam in his eyes. Have you noticed that the more Zabini hums and potions, the fewer points Snape takes from Gryffindor? The happier the Slytherins are, the happier Snape is, Harry replied easily. He figured that one out of his own, and Blaise wasn't exactly averse to being yanked into a nearby closet 15 minutes before every potions class. I really don't want to think about Professor Snape, thinking about your sex life, Hermione muttered. I just wish he would stop talking about it during my remedial lessons. Harry sighed and successfully scarred his best friends for life for, at least the 11th time since they've met. Predictably enough, when Umbridge learned about him and Luna and Blaise, she tried to ban unconventional relationships at Hogwarts, but the Toad Woman hadn't counted on the powers of Slytherin solidarity, or, for that matter, Slytherin romanticism. Pansy and Millicent, both old friends of Blaise's, were notoriously soft touches when it came to things like kittens and unicorns and impossible love affairs, and they weren't about to let someone stand in the way of their friend's epic romance. No one ever discovered what they did or how, but Umbridge disappeared the next day and was never seen again. The younger students cheerfully claimed for weeks that on clear, quiet nights you could hear Umbridge screams echoing on the wind. The school rejoiced. Trelawney predicted everyone would live long, healthy, happy lives, full of babies in large bank vaults. Flitwick squeaked a lot and fell over at least twice. Sprout gave enormous bunches of man-eating roses to Pansy and Millicent and wasn't even too upset when the slightly gnawed girls shrieked and beat their gifts into submission. McGonagall tearfully awarded Pansy and Millicent about a cajillion points during their next transfiguration class. In parentheses, oh, what a lovely sneer, Parkinson. That's 60 points for Slytherin. Oh, Bulstrode, your transfigurations are always so delightfully and entertainingly wrong. That's 80 points to Slytherin. She also gave Harry a warm hug that left him terrified and kind of hollow and cold on the inside, and announced that everyone who even looked at Luna wrong for the rest of the year would face horrific pain and degradation. Blaise, shaking and wild-eyed, told them of his daring escape from her office when she force-fed him biscuits and ruffled his hair until his scalp almost bled. Umbridge was replaced by defense professor... Umbridge was replaced as defense professor by an ex-auror who taught them dirty songs and some truly filthy hit wizard slang. As he was a ministry stooge as well, they never actually got around to any practical lessons, but they all learned a lot of shocking new words, so no one really minded. A day before the end of the year, Dumbledore called Harry to his office and told him that, on his acclumi, was grounded in regular relations with his boyfriend and girlfriend. The three of them would be staying together at Grimmauld Place over the summer. If, of course, they all agreed to have parental consent, blah, blah, blah. Threesomes solve everything, Luna said happily when Harry told her and Blaise about their revised summer arrangements. Harry found that he agreed, especially when Creature took a strong liking to Blaise and told him that he'd been plotting with the Malfoys for some time. Said something about a locket and a Master Regulus too, Blaise added thoughtfully. Harry dutifully reported this to Dumbledore, who immediately got all secretive and started talking to Sirius in a low, excited tones in the dark corners of the house. After a disturbing month or two of this, he let Harry in on the Horcrux thing and told him how Sirius had been helping him figure out the puzzle of the locket. Harry was deeply frightened by the idea of all those Horcruxes, of course, but he mostly was ecstatic to be able to finally tell Blaise with absolute certainty that no, Dumbledore and Sirius were not having a sordid affair. And less than a year later, Voldemort was dead. Threesome solve everything, Blaise said blithely, once Harry returned from the dead after his final showdown with the Dark Lord. Oh, and while you were busy saving the world and kicking the bucket, Looney found out that she's pregnant. Mine, of course, for my sperm are potent sperms, and yours are weak and pitiful and sad. He patted Luna's belly fondly. We ought to name it James Sirius, Harry said, mostly just to see Blaise scowl. He had quite an attractive scowl. And my sperm are not pitiful or sad. I think they're quite strong and content, actually. James Sirius is a good name, Luna agreed. It's going to be a girl, after all. Lily Sirius? Harry offered, because his godfather had promised him quite a lot of money in exchange for a namesake or two. No, Blaise replied, and 6 months later, little Xenophilia Blassinet was born to 3 parents and 4 godparents. Harry insisted on Hermione and Ron, and Blaise threatened to dire consequences if Draco and Pansy didn't get their share of the kid too. And all was well, even when Luna was banned forever from Hogwarts after she gave an extremely graphic lecture to the entire school about how vigorous and regular sex solves all of life's problems. Why, Brain? Why?